You thought I was done. I saw this video by Vaush, and I had to say something. Well, I didn't have to, but I figure I took a long break from Vaush for about maybe 2 or 3 months. And now I feel like we need to start saying some stuff about Vaush. So let's get into it, can we? Shall we? Yeah, let's do that. I'm just going to go ahead and record this, and then I'll bring it. I'll just, send it back out as a regular video. So let's go ahead and do it.
Okay, so you know the attack helicopter joke? And it's like, haha, trans people are dumb. That's used largely by sort of dumb right-leaning people. Well, there is a left-leaning of the attack helicopter joke, not in its express target, but in the with the frequency with which this joke is made. And unlike the attack helicopter joke, there is very not exactly a grain of truth, more like a gigantic heaving beetroot of truth. You know, the grain turns into grains don't turn into fruit. Or vegetables. Beets are vegetables, right?
Bruh.
Turn the screen. Hello. Biden hires all-female senior communications team. Names Neera Tanden director. We will talk about Neera Tanden. We'll get around to that. But in the meantime, Biden hires all-female.
You know what? Let me make this big screen, since I'm just going to go ahead and record this. Okay, here we go.
Senior communications team. How lovely. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir a little bit here, but I've made these jokes before. Shu, I think, collected all these headlines, you know, to the effect that I would. Biden picks first Latino to lead Homeland Security. My God. Homeland Security. Truly an agency in need of minority representation. Biden considers Daryl Blocker for his CIA director, which would make...
And to be more specific, is that Daryl Blocker was head of operation, or the chief of the African station, or at least basically he was in charge of all the wet work that happened in various African nations. So yeah, lovely. What a lovely thing. That's representation for you. As a black dude who was in Africa.
Former station chief and 32-year-old intelligence vet, the first black person in the top job. You can almost feel all of the assassinated Latin American socialists cry out. And
except for the fact that he was in Africa. He was in the continent of Africa and was in countries like Kenya, probably, and Mozambique and other nations like that. But yeah, okay.
Solidarity from their unmarked graves somewhere in a former fucking CIA black site. Michelle Flournoy could be the first woman to run the Pentagon, may bring many more women with her. And then, of course, a title we're all familiar with. The meme is, of course, for those of you who've already guessed it and hear it singing in your heads, the world needs more transgender female drone pilots, or something to that effect. There's always that joke, we need more female drone pilots. And that's you've seen this a million times before, yes? Unfortunately, it remains a good joke because it's rather saliently criticizing something that I actually have a pretty serious problem with. I feel like Shoeonhead has spent pretty much her entire YouTube career making fun of this specific thing, but I want to talk about why it's bad. Now, I want to be clear up front. I like diversity and representation. I like diversity in all things because diversity increases the range of things you're capable of experiencing. And I mean that like in literally every tier. If we're talking diversity of food, nobody argues against that, right?
Oh boy. Here we go. He literally turns into the meme. I mean, talk about turning into memes. I mean, he's like, that's why we like immigration, is that we have so much better food. I like shawarma like the next guy, is literally what he says. Go ahead.
To enjoy like a wide variety of foods, even if you don't like many other types of food, even if you're a picky eater, the option's nice. And every once in a while you think, maybe I do want shawarma. I love shawarma. I could go shawarma every day. But then you get to more esoteric kinds of diversity, cultural diversity. I loved exactly one part of Los Angeles, the city I was born in. And that was the fact that it's an incredibly diverse city. Drive around any direction, 5 minutes.
You notice that he doesn't ever say which area, like Chinatown. He didn't talk about, Anything specific. He's just like, well, there's this one particular region I like. I'm not going to tell you where.
You'll see 1,000 cultural influences, and it made the nightlife nice. There was a lot of interesting stuff to do in LA. You could spend your whole life there.
The hypocrisy runs deep with this guy. He's made, he's already done the fedora sort of, I don't like religion. I don't really care for certain aspects of Islam already, but it's like, but I also like different cultures though. Only when you approve of them, it's just like, you probably wouldn't like the right wing Hindutva either. Of course, you don't like Tulsi Gabbard, but it's like, bruh, how can you simultaneously be like, I hate religion and made a whole, schmear about it. But now he's going to be like, but I like certain cultural aspects. Go ahead.
They're walking around. You'll never see everything. Now, I live Seattle area. It's about the same here. I like big cities for that reason. People say diversity.
Once again, the eternal urbanite, the ewiger urbanite. I mean, oh, Lord have mercy. Go ahead.
These are strength. Well, considering the fact that America was literally built as an immigrants country. I mean,
no, once again, I'm sorry. Wignats do have a point. The United States, I'm sorry, but once again, I thought that the United States was built on white supremacy and all this sort of thing, where we wiped out, the various, Indian tribes and everything else like that. I thought, that's what America was built on. This idea of an immigrant nation, that didn't come until possibly the 18th or 19th century. And even then, you'll have, the whole, give me your poor, your huddled masses and all that, and all those sorts of things. Like, that wasn't really, it's the same type of thing where it's like lefties will say, we didn't always have the Pledge of Allegiance where it said one nation under God. That's something that came later on. The United States wasn't built as that way. Oh, the United States was always a Christian nation. Let's not. Like I say, I'm trying to be honest. I'm trying to be truthful here and realize, things aren't black and white. There's a lot of gray. The United States was built by people like George Washington, who was a Freemason. A lot of the, founding fathers were Freemasons. That doesn't, jibe with Christianity. So I don't really get, there's a lot of LARP. There's a lot of mischaracterization. There's a lot of myth that exists, but that's a whole different thing. I'm trying to be honest. I am trying to be. You have to give me that. Anyway, continue forward.
I feel like, and we're now the strongest country on earth. I feel like
the strongest. Once again, what are you? Are you a conservative? Are you one of these basic bitch conservatives who's like, America is still the strongest country in the world? Let's not. Golly. This is a guy who's supposed to be an anarchist. He is just a liberal. He is just somebody, as much as he, had a big falling out with Destiny, he is still just basically Destiny. He basically is. He is basically just another Destiny. That's all he is. Go ahead.
That motif speaks for itself. There are ways to handle a push for diversity incorrectly, though. And I think usually
this is I have to say, I'm trying to add plenty of commentary, just so I can be within TOS, but also I've been waiting. Just ignore that. Okay. But I've been waiting for him to criticize Joe Biden. I'm waiting for it because this is the guy who was like riding with Biden and all that LARPy, Biden, anarcho-Bidenism and all that other feijoa. And now they have to get down to brass tacks. Now they have to get down to brass tacks about it. And people are going to realize, I think, that Biden is no better than Trump in many different factors. Many different metrics. That's what I meant to say. Go ahead.
When those problems arise, it's because things are being handled condescendingly.
Mm.
So let me give you an example. Let's say, what did everyone get mad about? The Ghostbusters movie. You know what I mean? The new one, the one where it's all ladies. That movie wasn't very good, was it? I didn't see it. Seemed like a lot of people didn't like it, but um, a lot of the run up to that movie was sort of celebrating the fact that the leads were all female. And I don't have anything wrong with it's all women being Ghostbusters or whatever. But when you're selling something on the merits of its, I guess you wouldn't even call it diversity. If it's all women, it's about as diverse as it would be if it was all men. On the merits of its, non-traditional gender,
I love it. Go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
diversity or whatever. Um, it can come off a little bit patronizing, I think. And you also have
What?
to wonder when it comes.
Vaush, can you please stop doing it's like patronizing. He'll try to pronounce words like he's a fucking Anglo. It's like, bro, if it's amazing to me how he'll be like, oh, I don't like Anglos and all this type of thing. I don't like the Brits, Bongland and all that. But it's like he will still pronounce words like he's an Anglo to make himself sound more intelligent. It's just, oh, go ahead.
Comes to stuff like, say, for example, um, positions of extreme power within the government. To what extent is a person's identity, their race, gender, relevant to their qualifications? And I want to touch back on that in just a second, if I may. Before I reiterate, and I want to say this very, very clear. There's nothing wrong with having ladies or people of color in the government. I hope anyone watching this video knows that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with celebrating it either. I think not liberals, lefties. I think lefties misstep on this sometimes. Lefties will actually get contemptuous of the idea that there is value in diverse representation in places like government. I actually disagree with that,
I love this. He's stepping on eggshells right now, is he not? He is stepping on eggshells where he's going to try to bring up merit, basically, where he's going to be like, white supremacy is an issue, but maybe we need to keep hiring people based on merit instead of just hiring them to check a box. I think that's what he's going to try to say here. But let's see. That's my assumption.
Do I like Obama? No. You could fill in chat saying no there, if you would. I don't like Obama. But were there a lot of black kids who saw Obama and thought, wow, black people can be president? Probably. I mean, you see stuff like this with representation in media. I think representation in media is fantastic because media has such an effect on us.
Go ahead. I can't. Go ahead. It's too easy.
Shape their perception of how life should be through media. Imagine all the things that you have strong opinions on that you have never personally experienced and have only experienced through YouTube, movies, music, television. Think of everything. Think of things like the military and policing, for example. How many Americans have ideas about policing which are shaped by not actual empirical data about how policing works, but about movies?
Ah, yes, my data. If they only had the data, and they understood the data, then it'd be so much better world.
Policing. Detective work. What's that one is it X-Files? There were a lot of ladies who got into detective work after the X-Files, I think, because there was a lady part of the main duo there, right? Am I thinking?
Well, Law and Order did too. I mean, I don't really get what you're saying, particularly like Law and Order Criminal Intent, but that doesn't really have anything to do with it. But go ahead.
It's the X-Files, right? I don't know why I'm looking this way. Chat's not here to correct me. I think it's the X-Files, yeah. People get an understanding of their place in life based on media. And if you have media and higher government, which is a kind of media in and of itself, exclusively dominated by white guys, that does send messages to everyone down the line. I think the representation thing is important. But
here we go.
When does representation become a cloak for progressive?
Well, tokenism is what you mean. It's tokenism, but you don't want to say that. But I'm saying it right here. That's what you mean is tokenism.
See, that's the thing. if you have an institution like, say, for example, the Department of Homeland Security, not exactly a progressive institution, that, or the CIA, how much are you actually improving these agencies by putting people of color at the top of them? Now, again, I want to be clear. You don't have to justify putting like a black or a brown guy at the head of these institutions. Like Joe Biden and liberals, they don't have to explain
He's
to
trying so hard. He's trying so hard to just be like, well, actually, we do still need merit, and we still want people that are actually meant for the job. But he's covering it up with his own sort of pseudo lib wannabe leftist type of talk. Go ahead.
me or anyone else why it's better to do this. Otherwise, the default should remain the white guy. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm asking is how much does this actually matter? You know, how much does it matter if the drone pilot is a woman? There's an infamous there's an infamous article. I'd pull it up if I could remember enough about it. It goes something like, her name is Candy. She's a drone pilot. She's sick of men. She deals death from 15,000 miles away. And honey, she's tired of you. Or something like that. And it was like I think it was from 2015. It was a news article and it was celebrating some female drone pilot. And I think that's honestly where this meme started. At least that helped kicked it off quite a bit. And the problem with that article, the thing that made it so incredibly bad, was that it felt like it was celebrating the act of being a drone pilot because now a woman is involved. Listen, having women involved with drone piloting doesn't make drone piloting any less bad. It's just
Basically, the reason is that basically they just want to put a different face on it, where it's like, "Oh, we got rid of the white people. So we got, we actually now we have brown people killing other brown people." That's basically what he wants to say. But I think, like I say, he's trying to be more. He wants to show his pseudoness as much as he can.
me. It's just now you got a lady doing it, And likewise, the CIA, not a biggest fan of the CIA and what they tend to do. Don't think it's going to be made one iota better by putting a black guy at the head of it. This is why there were so many disingenuous liberals who were saying that the choice between Biden and Bernie back during the Democratic primaries was a choice between two old white men. And there were some of them, they were saying they'll
Mm-hmm.
never vote for like a old white guy anymore. And they're referring to Bernie,
Yeah.
whereas they would have voted for Kamala Harris or Warren, which is
No.
interesting because if you look at it, if you're looking at like policies about race,
No. Once again, that's an oversimplification. I think that they go ahead. He's trying so hard to just try to be like, well, it's not about race, but
or gender or transgender people or economic policy or any of that. Bernie Sanders was more progressive than any of these people, but they were choosing in the name of progressivism other people, less progressive people, because of their gender identity or their race. That's the worry. My worry is that there are going to be people who see this, or people who see this, or people who see this, and they're going to think, oh, these institutions are less bad now. They've been made better. They're progressive now. But of course, that's not true. The wheels, the
he's
mechanisms of power
he's
do not.
trying so hard not to just be like, well, fuck Biden. He's trying so hard because he said basically he is waiting until January 20th before he actually starts to go in on Biden. When Biden starts another war, people like Vaush are just going to be eviscerated. And go ahead.
Care who's running them. You could have put a black guy at the head of the transatlantic slave trade, and as long as that black guy was situated within the same
And
collection
hold on. And Wignats will say that the first person who owned a slave was a black man. That's what Wignats will say. So go ahead.
of material interests as the person who came before him, I don't think that would have made life much better. In fact, you can go all throughout history and find examples of people of color who work against the interests of people of color, a la Thomas Sowell or Candace Owens, or women who act against the interests of women, like, Margaret Thatcher. It's not hard to find people like this. Or what's that? What they call her? She calls herself the rational feminist. What's her name again? I completely forget. Chat would tell me. Chat's not here. God, I miss chat. Oh God, I miss chat. So yeah, that's the meme. uh, the female drone pilot meme. But keep in mind, by the way, in a completely neutral sense, as long as it's not being used to sort of mask real progressivism or otherwise, I like diversity. I mean,
Oh, see, I love it. See, where he admits that basically, putting lipstick on a pig, to put it in simple terms, but he's like, but I still like representation. The fact that you continue to shill for this representation meme shows that you are still part of the problem, sir. But that's, once again, you don't want to piss off your audience. And I think that you actually believe it to a point, which is very sad, but that's a whole other thing. Go ahead.
no coincidence that the Republican Party, which is decidedly more reactionary than the Democratic Party in a great many measurable
Oh boy,
ways,
he's still going to shield for the Democratic Party. Oh, that's hilarious. That is so hilarious. Go ahead.
empirical ways, is far, far more made up of white dudes than the Democratic Party is. The Democratic Party is almost representative of the demographic population of the United States. It's not perfect. There are still more men than women.
He's still shilling for the Democratic. I love it. Go ahead.
But it's in the ballpark. The Republican Party, I think, is like 90% white dudes. When I'm talking about elected officials, like senators and Congress people and such. And there's a reason for that, and that's because these interests are reflected, I think, in the demographics, both of the population that votes for them and of the candidates that end up getting voted for. And I'd like to live in a world where there is no categorical bias or difference between a black or a white person getting voted, or a man or a woman or a non.
See, this is something that only white folks would say. Where it's like, I don't want to see a difference between a black person and a white person. Can't we just be done with racism? I mean, this is. Go ahead. We're almost done. We're almost there.
Binary person or a cis or a trans person, or hell, I'd love to live to see my first atheist president, I think that'd be nice.
Oh, please. There are already atheistic presidents. You just didn't know about it.
I'm always a little bit suspect of all the religious rhetoric that gets used during the presidential race.
Please. See, he's not going to bring up the fact that Kamala Harris, while arresting thousands of, contributing to the arrests of thousands of black folks in California, is that these same type of folks will pray, or, the shit libs will praise her because, we have our first Indian vice president. Who gives a fuck? Is she actually good at the job? But of course, I know merit is bullshit. That's what people like Peter Coffin said. But yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, just something to keep in mind.
Oh, booey. Okay. Well, there we go, folks. Absolute haram. That's all that needs to be said. I hope y'all enjoyed this. See you later, and goodbye.